Good afternoon and welcome back after the lunch break. I'm pleased to begin our next session, a panel discussion, Making EU Migration Reform Work, moderated by Ralph Genetzke, Director of the Brussels Mission. Over to you.
Thank you, Justina. And yes, if you find your seats, so that we can proceed. I hope that you had good discussions and lots of discussions over lunch break, or even better that you joined the side event which we had on, I think, actually very interesting, forecasting migration dynamics. But now we would like to turn to one of the topics which I think in any migration conference today, and it was very much at the center also of comments and remarks by the ministers this morning, from EU member states, so the centerpiece of European EU policy, the EU Pact on migration and asylum. And when as ICMPD, when we look at policy, we always have one eye already on what does it mean for implementation. We had the opportunity actually last year to support a number of our member states in back then. What was the drafting? Some of you will remember the drafting of national implementation plans, already a huge exercise, and we are still now, this year we are supporting also a number of EU member states and ICMPD member states in the implementation of very specific aspects in preparation for the pact. And these insights have been, I think it's fair to say, very insightful where we stand with migration management systems in the European Union. And in order to discuss that, I'm very, very happy that this distinguished panel has found the time to join us today. We have with us, and I'm normally short on introductions because I think panelists are well known, and it's actually even more interesting what they will say than your history. Your CVs are also interesting, but what you will say is even more interesting. Beate Gminder, the Director-General of the Directorate-General for Migration and Home Affairs of the European Commission. And with that, you are sort of the guardian of European legislation. As always, the Commission is the guardian. You're very pleased to have you here. To my right, and sorry, I'm another side remark, but I think it's always useful when we speak about migration actually to visualize also the geography of countries. And I find that really insightful when we look at here actually the geographies, and then we say, as the Swedish minister said this morning, is there any alternative? But we are getting all these geographies, only thinking about that together in this European Union. And here we have with us Manos. Logothetis has the Greek Secretary-General for Migration Policy, and that since August 2024. Very warm welcome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Again, keep the geography in your mind. We are moving north. We have with us Munro, serves as Assistant Secretary for Civil Policy and Legislation of the Department of Justice, Home Affairs and Migration. So up there in Ireland. Very warm welcome. Thank you for joining. And then Central Europe, different geography as well, different situation. Ms. Pavla Novotná has been serving as Director of the Department for Asylum and Migration Policy at the Czech Ministry of the Interior, and that since 2017. And interestingly, a few years ago, we were sitting here already and we had a discussion on planning for, in view of the pact. Now we are in the situation that we can discuss the centerpiece of European legislation. But let's get into it, and I would like to start with the European Commission. Beate, I mean, sort of taking stock, first of all, we have the Commission perspective, we have 3 member states, the perspective, but taking stock not to be too long on the history where we come from. I mean, it's a professional audience. Some of the audience, the people in the audience, I think they have studied most of the pieces of the legislation. But still, when you look at where we are right now, sort of 3 major challenges, but also, and I think we want to be optimistic, where you think, well, it shows that it can work. I mean, was such a also political effort to bring everybody together to get that agreement. Yeah, sort of some challenges, but also what you think has been actually a positive experience so far.
Well, and hello to everyone. I'm very glad to be here and happy to be part of this panel. Obviously, you know, in terms of practical implementation, there are the key people in these countries sitting with me, so I will not say how they do it. They do all wonders and miracles. But I think politically it is extremely good to see that there continues to be a strong political support to implement the pact. There's no council meeting where, you know, it's not repeated that we want to do this endeavor together, and that's a very important political message for inside the European and for outside the European Union. The EU has found a new system, it will implement this system. Then when it comes to concrete deliverables, we're now at the process and the time where the Commission will soon propose the first migration management cycle, which will be a implementing decision by the Commission on which countries are, according to the annual management migration regulation, under pressure, risk of migratory pressure, or having a specific risk, a specific situation in their country, and also propose a first solidarity pool for the member states to agree on in the next weeks. So that launches then the cycle that will be applied concretely for the solidarity part as of June, but of course for the responsibility part, this is already in the implementation. Do we have challenges? Yes. Can I start from the other end of the stick, where we often don't think about? The pact foresees very radically quick procedures. You need to have enough staff for that, and you need to have the juridical system set up to also be as fast as the asylum workers. And that, I think, is going to be still a major challenge in all member states, because the laws, the setup is different, and this will not be easy to be done within the deadlines of 3 months for asylum procedure plus appeal in the border procedure, and 3 months for the return border procedure. So I think that's a key challenge. Also, I think setting up the right ways to welcome people that are vulnerable, who would not immediately go into a border procedure, is another challenge that we're still having ahead. But I think we're going to publish soon, together with the other acts, we're going to publish our next implementation report, and I think we don't have any big red flags.
Okay. Thank you. And as you pointed out, interesting, I mean, and I think that will be part of the comments, I hope, as well. So there's the political level, but then very, very pragmatic, I mean, operational issues. You said actually, yeah, I mean, quick procedures, you need the staff. We also saw from ICMPD work, I mean, procurement, for instance, that's always something which takes a while and is complicated. And you pointed to the colleagues for the real implementation. Pavla, from the Czech Republic, your experience so far, the priorities in terms of aligning or aligning the national system to the reality of the pact. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I could say that really 2 years looks like a very, very long time. It's not. That's, we all know. The main issue is, of course, to align the national legislation, which we already have done. And I have to admit, and that's the truth, that we used the opportunity and we amended as well issues that are not pact related. So basically, it's not only about the pact, but it's about the whole overall systems. When it comes to the challenges or priorities, we are gladly intra-Schengen country, so I have to admit that it was much easier for us as an intra-Schengen country to prepare. But one thing was a challenge, I think it was neglected in the debates before, and it goes to the quick procedures, as Beate said, and that's the judicial system. Because it's not only about the ministries, it's as well about the judicial system that needs to be somehow as well working towards the same goal, and that's quick procedures. So this was the biggest, I would say, change that we had to prepare and where we had to discuss with the Ministry of Justice and, of course, the whole court system, because it's not only about the Ministry of Justice. A second challenge is what you said, Ralph, the procurement issues and the IT. Oh, it's a miracle if you are able to change IT systems in a speedy way with all the rules, procurement rules, and all of that. And I think there we will all have a lot still that needs to be done. And that the whole debate about this is in the Czech context against the backdrop of the still Ukrainian crisis that we still have. And that goes into a different system, but this system is actually now really under strain. So this is the reality of the Czech Republic, but again, we are in a quite good position as being an intra-Schengen country, so it's much easier for us. I have to admit that.
Thank you. Just one, I mean, then EU, we always speak about also then support. I mean, it's basically national efforts, but also using EU funding, or is there...
yeah, of course.
You have sufficient
as
support?
Beate said, I mean, we are having so many debates in the EU now about the implementation, and we are very glad that we have as well financial support when it comes to the implementation. That's important. But what's as well important is a pragmatic debate on the implementation, because it needs to be implemented in a pragmatic way, in a flexible way, so that we are able to really deliver at the end of the day. So this is what we believe it was a good way to do it, and we have I think every 2-3 months very pragmatic debates as well with the Commission on the practicalities.
And sorry, now I'm getting interested. What you're saying, I'm anticipating some questions. What you said about the judicial system when you exchange with other member states, is that something which is sort of shared, or you hear also from others? You said it might be neglected.
Yeah, some of the colleagues here as well have been to a meeting that we had in Czech Republic a week ago, actually, exactly on this topic. So how the cooperation with the judicial system can look, what are the options, what are the possibilities, because we all feel that we need that. Of course, it's a judicial system, so the judicial system, it's natural, it's independent, but there is a need, even in this independency, to debate with the first instance, to debate about the goals, about how we proceed. And actually the pact enabled that and opened to that, because the deadlines in the pact are really very tough. When it comes not only to the first instance, but as well to the second instance or the judicial instance. So this is something that brought a completely new area of cooperation to the national systems, I think, and we all have to deal with it somehow. And I'm glad that we were able to speak with the court system in the Czech Republic about that, frankly, because of course they are a little bit afraid. But there was a discussion on that, and there is still an ongoing discussion. We are having a project as well with ICMPD on that. We are glad for that. Really, I think it's going the right direction.
Thank you, thank you. I'm still on my map. Geography, Greece.
You're moving up and down.
Yeah, I'm going up and down. I mean, a lot of efforts, I think it's fair to say, has been done by Greece, European Union with Greece over the past years. Well, the two of you are actually best placed to speak about that. And yeah, now with the pact, from your point of view, sort of the experience in Greece, but then also, I mean, it's about, as we said, about infrastructure, about staff, but then also, you know, to get some of the key words in there. I mean, when you think about the pact, the screening, the border procedures, yeah, from your experience so far and how you look at that.
Ralph, you mean whether all these are a challenge for Greece or not, for the implementation? They are not. Actually, we do the screening already. We have the Eurodac system, an older version of it, but we still have it there. So we fingerprint each and every person that comes through Greece. We have a system that is quite similar to the one that we are supposed to implement from June on. The problem, and we also have, with the support of the European Union, also the infrastructure. So we have brand new camps. They suffer a little bit, but they are still there with a big capacity. So, yeah, there is a challenge with the personnel and the time frame, because you remember that in the past we were doing all the procedures really slow, then we moved to doing it really fast. We got criticism both ends. So we were criticized when we were too slow. We then got criticized when we did it too fast. Now we are faster than the time frame of the pact, so we feel really confident that we can become slower in that sense. So there are not many things to worry about. Becoming slower is a very easy thing when you come from this part of the world where I'm coming from. The thing is that the challenge is not mainly the technical one. The challenge is the high expectations. We have this tendency to think that from June on, we will have no problem. We tend to perceive that if we find a solution to the technicalities, it will take us a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks. We will have the first asylum response, the first asylum decision in a month or 2 months. What will become with the judicial system that is doing the appeals? And if we solve all this, then we will have a brand new world. I think that's the biggest challenge. I'm not really confident yet that by July we will have a brand new world. I'm trying to think of the pact as the first step forward. At least we have one common approach. We all know, more or less, what we are supposed to do, and we are supposed to do it on the same agenda, the same way. And that is what should be bothering us. Can we actually accommodate to this common pathway? That should be the challenge from June on. If we do that, then we have moved ahead a lot. Because currently, everyone is doing whatever he wishes. Whatever he perceives as this is the way that I should be doing things, this is what we are doing. From now on, from June on, we will have a common system. We have a common Eurodac, a brand new one, common IT system, information sharing, common procedures, screening procedures that will be the same, under the same time frame, all over Europe. That is enough for a challenge for the time being. Let's make it up to then, and then we will face the second thing. But don't get lost on details. That's my proposal. We feel confident. That's why we are moving already to the second phase. So we are providing with some different structures through the pact for our assessment on migration, which means that we will have camps that will be for returnees, camps that will be for those that are supposed to be integrated. Through the screening process, this is what the pact says. So we say in the pact that you should do the screening and then decide whether he is supposed to get asylum or not. And we already moved to the second phase. We have introduced this approach that we will have camps for those that are supposed to stay, and we call them integration camps, and we will have camps for those that are supposed to be returned. Because we negotiated the pact for 10 years, and we never talked about returns. Just a few months, the Commission came out with this new approach on a common returns system. And I'm asking, we are establishing a new system. What will be the end result? The end result is people who get asylum and people who are supposed to be returned. And we just started to talk within Europe about this second category, the returnees. So we have a long way to go. Don't be like so, aggressive on what will happen on June. We will implement the pact, all of us, I think, and we will see from then on what was the success story and what was the non-success story after the pact. So we have a long way. Nothing will be solved in June. That's my approach.
Okay. So on the one hand, actually a reassuring, very reassuring message. You're saying systems in Greece, and you anticipated certain things as well, also with the support of the EU. But then, yeah, when we'll come to the second point, as what happens then there in with the pact expectations and so
it's
on.
the second thing. Yeah.
Ireland, you took a decision, or your government, to opt in, because that piece of legislation, or as it was called by last year at this VMC, it was called ein Gesamtkunstwerk, the pact, sort of a full shape of a piece of art, where everything fits together. So I mean, there was a deliberate decision to opt in. Again, from your point of view, what was there before? What brought it to you in aligning your national systems, and where you are now?
You're absolutely correct, Ralph. It wasn't just me who decided to opt in. I included the government and the parliament in the decision. But it was a very deliberate choice. I think perhaps in the past, when the UK was still a member of the European Union, sometimes our decisions on whether to opt in, as we have this option under Protocol 21, into elements of the Common European Asylum System, sometimes it was influenced by the position that Britain had taken, but we were very clear, and I had no difficulty in getting agreement from the Minister or from government, that we should opt into the pact, that the challenges of migration are not something that we can handle, any member state can handle in isolation, and that coming together with our European Union colleagues is the way to address these challenges that cross all borders. So that part was easy. I think perhaps, though, explaining to some people in the wider political sphere, in Parliament and maybe more publicly, there were some questions about, why would you cede control to the European Union? And it was, no, it's not ceding control, it's bringing our strength together and gaining greater control together as the member states as one. So, I mean, that was a very clear choice. It was an obvious choice for us that we would be stronger together in doing this. Some of the challenges that were there, it's the same. I was agreeing with everything that Paula and that Manos were saying. The pace of reform is challenging to try and do it in 2 years, but at the same time, if we had 10 years to do this, we would still be scrabbling at the last minute to get it over the line. So sometimes it's good to have a deadline. It forces you to make decisions. And the problem doesn't wait around for you to solve. It doesn't wait, migration doesn't stop for 10 years. So some of the challenges there for us, I suppose, were we had some screening in place and vulnerability assessments, but designing an upfront screening system. Now, we're not in the screening regulation because it's fully a Schengen measure, but we want to align as fully as possible with that in our national legislation. So we're doing that. Some of the challenges that are there, we have a Eurodac system, but getting the new one switched on in time for next year, that's going to be a challenge for everybody, I think. And then there was the whole question of, getting the staffing right, resourcing, having to run 2 operations. We will have to run the old system for some time after June of next year for people who applied under the old system. Now, we're hopeful that we will have cleared all of the first instance decisions by October or November of next year, but we will have a long tailback of appeals that we will have to deal with. But this is where the coming together helps. A small example, we will shortly be obtaining assistance from the EUAA in strengthening our current appeal system and getting more support in there into that system so it can be more efficient. And part of the learning as well, I mean, the support from the Commission and the colleagues in the Commission has been fantastic. The technical support instrument, I think, has been really useful, and the ICMPD involvement in that has been really, really helpful to us in designing new systems and adapting systems, but not reinventing the wheel. What we've learned from our colleagues across the Union, I mean, we're talking to our Dutch colleagues about how best to use AI. We've learned from the Danes about how to do document verification better. We've learned from our colleagues in Romania about how they do screening and how we can develop and improve our systems. And that, watching that learning happening in the room, bringing operational colleagues together, and when they realize, oh, you have the same problem, have you tried our solution? It's a wonderful thing to witness that level of cooperation at operational level, that we realize we have the same problems, but when we come together, we can develop better, stronger solutions.
Thank you. There's a bit of a European spirit in there. That's nice to hear, actually.
Well, absolutely. I think it's critical, and I mean Manos is right. It won't be a magic solution on the 11th of June next year. We will still have challenges ahead, but I think keeping that European-centred vision. This isn't Ireland solving Ireland's narrow little problem. This is Ireland working with our fellow member states to deal with the problem that we all face, and facing it together is the way to do it.
We'll continue with sort of second round a little bit to look more here expectations, or we can call it, well, what will we achieve? Will it be sufficient? What is in the pact? But we'll continue on with you with regard to Ireland, because you mentioned it already, and this to explain the opting in. I mean, there is public trust. I mean, we heard again this morning saying, well, what citizens expect is that the politicians, states, governments can show that they are in control, to get that trust. How, not you and your government, how do you explain that? I mean, that it is sort of, for the benefit of the country to be part of that, to be part of that endeavor to do all these measures?
Well, some of that is about explaining. Some of it is about talking. It's about explaining to people what we're doing and what direction we're going, but it's much more about what you do. And I suppose after the crash, we perhaps didn't have the money to invest enough in our processing systems, but even before the pact, and particularly since 2023, we've invested in staffing and technology and faster processing to show people in Ireland that our system can be effective and can be efficient. And we've shown that through faster processing that we've introduced since October 2023, you can reduce the number of people, the non-meritorious cases that are coming to seek asylum, because, and it's very understandable, it's the easy way in if you want to get into the labour market and you can't get a labour permit because it's low skilled or you can't afford it. Fly to Dublin, get a job in the grey economy, and then apply for asylum. When we started applying rapid processing to those type of applicants, the demand reduces by 50, 60, 70% in some cases. People realise, okay, Ireland isn't a soft touch. If you pretend to be an asylum seeker when you haven't got a case, you will be processed quickly. And that builds public confidence. And it builds support for having an asylum system that protects genuine refugees and confidence in legal migration pathways. And I think, so the rhetoric is important in explaining it to the public, but demonstrating the actuality on the ground is critical to public confidence. We have to show that the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Thank you. But same question to you also with the public trust, but then also I think public trust there, I mean, as we said already, I mean, there's a political level, there's the operational level, and in that discussion right now, I mean, it was mentioned this morning, I mean, the one thing is sort of the technical aspects. I think every citizen will probably agree that, getting IT systems up to speed, better databases and so on. Then there are the more, also with the measures with political weight, and that is, the solidarity part of the pact, which is very much out there at the moment. Yeah, how to explain that is also part of the pact?
Well, I think we are still a little bit cautious, as the public in the Czech Republic is, because it's very easy and very quick to lose confidence, and that's what happened 2014, 2015 in the Czech Republic. Until 2014 it was not an issue, not a debate. Then we faced a rapid loss of confidence in the public, really. I mean, that was... and it's unfortunately, it takes much longer to gain confidence. You lose it quickly, you gain it it takes long. And with the pact, one of the problems of the pact is kind of expectation management. Because it was somehow presented, and basically everybody did, that it's something new. Now, that's the solution. That's the miracle that will come. We all know that it's an amendment to a system that we already have, a system that unfortunately did not meet the goals, 2015, 2016. and we needed to change it. The pact is basically only an amendment that brings a lot of new things, but it's not something new. We are already having a common European asylum system, and it's difficult to explain that because everybody thinks that's something new, and something new that will really help. Some say it's something new that won't help. No, it's just another step. It's really only another step in the debate, another steps in the change of the legislation. And today morning, somebody, I think the Swedish minister said, control and compassion. Okay, if we want compassion, we need control. I would say it means as well with the solidarity, it's the same. If we have control, we can speak more easily about solidarity. This is what the public expects. It was clearly stated everywhere. We see it at every elections. We see it at every political debate we have. And we have to ask ourselves whether we did not create too much expectations from the pact and from June 2026 for the public. I am not sure. Because there are things that are not yet decided, like the return part. There are a lot of practicalities that will need to be solved, and the public is expecting. We should be really careful now in communicating what will happen in June 2026, because actually nothing will happen in June 2026. No, because there will be it will take time until we have decisions, until we have appeals, until we have all of that. On the first day, nothing will happen really, or not that visible to the public.
Thank you. Okay. So in terms of, but then no, I think it's there's sort of common agreement on the expectations, which you mentioned first. You know, what to achieve. But then just to come back, still on this, I mean, on the solidarity part, yeah, there to manage the expectations, what does it need? Because it's sort of out there. I think when you ask media at the moment, they jump as one of the big topics from a Czech Republic point of view.
Yeah, well, you know, we are 2 weeks after elections. We still don't have a new government, so that's the answer.
Okay. Manos.
I have to correct myself before you start. So this is the second step, the pact. The first step has already been there, which is that we all agree, which is something new. Yeah. We have the same approach. We have the same reluctance against the pact. So it means that this was the first step, that we all realized that there were higher expectations, but we have a common... This first agreement, if we were sitting here, we were sitting after 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we will have too many different approaches. And that was the first step.
If I may just come in here too, I think there's also very much a message of communication coming from the pact. And from this, we all agree.
Yes.
Because we can also see that was also said this morning, that the flows to the European Union have been massively gone down. Exactly. So clearly there's also a message to people who want to come irregularly and who know that they cannot get asylum here, which is not all of them, but a lot of them, that, you know, this is not any longer the path to take. Because in parallel, we have also been trying to work harder on legal pathways, because we do have legal migration to the European Union in high numbers. So I think that messaging should also not be forgotten. Normally, this is your role to say, but...
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you took my line, but still, no. This is actually the first achievement that we made together in the last 10 years of negotiating. We reached a consensus about what is the problem and how we can actually tackle it. Yeah. Go against it, let's say, in a more abrupt way. So now there is a fear that we go back to words. We talk about the pact, general idea. What exactly is the pact? It's the legal framework, so it's the legal documents of a new era of implementing some rules. We talk about solidarity. we had to reach 2025 to talk about solidarity within Europe. I will tell you something. Greece had a lot of solidarity from 2015 on. We got something like 3.5 billion in euros as a support to tackle the migration crisis. So solidarity is the essence of Europe. Is it enough? Is what we need? Do we need to talk about it that much? Why we are in this union? To offer support to one another, hopefully. That's the perception in Greece. So we gather up into a union to support one another. So we have it already. Why we talk that much? Because it is really a nice word, solidarity. So is it enough? No. Is it the solution to the problem? No. I can give you a really, aggressive view. Solidarity is also a pull factor, as we explain, and we talk about it. What do the people that are currently sitting outside of our borders thinking when we talk about solidarity? That with this solidarity pool, some people will make it to where they want to go. This will be the way of solidarity. We say that if you create a crisis on the borders, then the other member states will come to help the member states that are under stress, and they will take some of the burden. This is the famous burden sharing. Okay, this for the European audience is a perfect debate. But if we think for those people waiting outside, what do they hear when we talk about all this? So my suggestion is that let's do more, let's talk less. Let's stop talking about the things that make us feel better about our relationship in a union. Let's make it happen. And of course, I think that if we need solidarity in any form, we will get it, because this is the reason we are together in that. Otherwise, we will have just small nations trying on their own to tackle any type of crisis. So let's focus on what we need and what is the main target. And this is the biggest question that we have to answer at some point. How we are going to implement is one question, technical one. The biggest question is, what do we expect to happen? What should be our final destination in this trip to follow after the implementation of the pact? I think that it's really obvious that we want to regulate the irregular flows to Europe. And I can go a step further and say we want to actually decrease them as low as possible. That's why we are talking about legal pathways. That's why we are talking about returns. So the main objective should be there. What is the main objective? We cannot stand it anymore. That's the main objective. We had enough politically, socially, financially, and we try to find a way to decrease this phenomenon of the last 10 years as much as possible. If you have a clear statement on what you are looking for, then on the technical level, implementing the pact, solidarity, Dublin, whatsoever, this is the way you are going to reach your target. But is the target clear? I think for the first time after all these years, the target is clear to every government in Europe. Now, it remains on the details to see how the implementation will go. We will do mistakes. I told you one, we are talking too much about solidarity. This is the biggest mistake, for my opinion, that we do so far. I know that they are eager to come out with a solidarity pool, but the messaging through solidarity is already against the basic mandate of what we try to implement, if I'm not wrong. And what we try to implement is make irregular migration decrease. So we are really keen, because I know that you are going to ask for solidarity, and sorry for getting... We are really... Okay, we love that. We have solidarity. We had it in the past. I bet that we will have it in the future. But is this the reason we are here? Is this the main objective? I think not. If we do not have solidarity in any form, money, technical assistance, people that are supposed to be moved, like relocation, we call it relocation, now we call it solidarity. It's the same thing. We relocated a lot of people in the past. We moved people from Greece to Germany. We moved people from Greece to France with bilateral talks. And we did that. So we had solidarity on the table. Was it effective? More or less, yes, but we needed more. But is this the debate? No, it should not be. We should stop talking about what makes us feel more comfortable under the context of this lovely conference here. And we should talk more on the things that will make our objective come closer. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Very clear words. I'll give the floor to Beate to comment about everything. I won't even ask you a question. The elements, of how keeping, that's, I think what many also commentators, noted was this governance framework, which we have actually around the pact, where to keep everybody together for the common objective, for the common work. It's interesting, everybody underlines that. It'd be interesting also to hear you what it needs really to have everybody in there, solidarity, of course. And just to say, before I give the floor to everybody in the room, I'm looking here, I have a timer, and apparently we're doing good on time, so there will be actually time to open after Beate spoke, to open up for questions.
You're surprised with this.
So get prepared to ask your questions. We really have, I think, a bit of time, which is very nice. But Beate.
Yeah, no, but perhaps to come back that, this pact is really something to manage migration with rules internally, where we had a real need for reform and to update our laws in the European Union. But of course, comprehensively, migration is something that is a global discussion and a global way of working together, because it's about, do we still manage to solve conflicts or not? And this is very not easy, as we know. There are people on the move who need a safe space for the European Union. The closest was the people who are coming from Ukraine and who also need to be taken care of and have had quite some requirements additionally to implementing the pact over the past years on the same people managing migration in the EU member states. But then, of course, we also have to see how we manage comprehensively with member states and third countries and international organizations migration flows. I'm deeply convinced that it is very important for people to stay close to home, and that we have to work more to enable people to stay closer to home, where they can also find a way back. And before they go on a difficult migratory route, where often they arrive then at the European Union shores, being extremely vulnerable and exploited over the journey. So it's a very important work to still be done, and I also want to say that this is something to invest with countries together. One of the fascinating parts of working on migration is also this whole of government approach. You do not only work with people who work in the core of reception of people that arrive, you also work with labor authorities, social ministries, you work with regional authorities, so it's something that also in the pact implementation we have been stressing a lot, that this is a way to do a reset button, how you want to work your system inside your country and take lessons what has worked well and what has perhaps not worked well. But I don't want to really forget about this global dimension, because I think it is really essential. And then perhaps to complement, since we have had the agreement in December 2023 of the pact, we have obviously started to also do some complementary draft legislation. One is to have some countries being where we see that people coming from these countries are coming from a country that is a safe country of origin, so that you can also do a very quick procedure. It was said it's key to have quick procedures for the domestic population, but I think also for the people arriving, because they have a right to know quickly what happens to them. They often come with quite a lot of hopes, and they might be shattered, and it's better to know that quickly than to know that later. So that's an important element that complements the pact. Another one is also a proposal to define better what link there should be on the route with a safe third country for the purpose of return. And then ultimately we have been also proposing this huge legislation reforming the return legislation of the European Union, which according to our expectations was a fine piece of work, having listened to all member states, and turned out to be the opposite. So we got a lot of criticism for it. And we're still trying to explain that, you know, some more procedures would lead to more effective returns than to bureaucracy, but it's not an easy discussion. So that's very important to take into account. And then last but not least, I want to also mention that there is a lot of, while I agree that there's not going to be a radical new world on the 12th or 13th of June, but there is new elements that are, come into play, and this is also obligations on the people that arrive. Obligations to cooperate, obligations to be forthcoming with their documents, obligations to apply for asylum in the first country of entry, which is a big difference to today. And therefore, you know, this, I think, will be also creating new factors that we don't know yet how it will then in the longer run play.
Thank you. Manos.
They got a lot of criticism about the Returns Directive, the proposal, but they got it on the technicalities,
Yes.
which is, let's say, it gives you an optimistic view. So not for the essence of the Common Returns Directive, but for how are we going to implement it. You know, as technocrats, as people like working on the field, and we are the ones that we are supposed to implement those things, we are actually developing this criticism. So we tell our bosses, which are the political hierarchy, that, you know, this is a good idea, but it will be really difficult to implement. But this is already a win. You know, if we disagreed on the essence of a common return directive, then we would have a problem. If we have a problem on the implementation, it means that we have to work more on that, but we all understand the reason that we need a common return system. And that is that we have to kill asylum shopping. We have to get the idea out of the minds of the people coming that they can apply here, there, and someplace else. If you get rejected in Europe, you got rejected in Europe. And this is the initiation of a common asylum procedure also, a European asylum procedure. Huge debate. But this is where we are going, and I'm really confident that we will make it a few years after, hopefully not 10. But
We'll take regularly stock every year at the Vienna Migration Conference to see where we are. Before I open up for questions and answers from your side, is there anything you would like to comment at this stage? Or?
Yeah, basically I will invite Manos to come to the Czech Republic and tell the same speech in the Czech environment. Would help a lot. Thank you.
That's not Manos' speech, he stole it from me. He said what I was going to say.
yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
that's why I jump in, you know, I'm just here.
There is already a gentleman in the back. If you just state your name and who you're working for. Will work in a second. Not yet.
Okay, yes, thanks. This is Mr. Bossing again, German Institute of International Security Affairs. I'll try to make it a question and not a long speech, but allow me first 1 minute, maybe a response to some of that was been said. I'm not a politician, and this is a public forum, and I'm not sitting in these forums, so I don't want to challenge it from that point of view that there is a new consensus on restriction, and Germany has, in the view of other European countries, come to census in that sense. However, I think it's a bit challenging or problematic to make it too strong, this statement that it's only about restriction, because the pact is multifaceted, and if we only stress the common aim of restriction, then the question is how much restriction is enough. And I think we have seen already a dangerous race between countries to who is the most restrictive and where is the limit, where we're saying this is good enough. And because of this race, I think there is, as ever, the old problem of who's moving first. Of course, everybody can and has to do lots of things nationally, but in the end, it's a dance together. And if everybody waits for the other, then this dance is never going to start, not in 1 year, not in 5 years. So I just want to moderate that, I mean, from my perspective at least, that message, as much as I understand it politically, that there is a more unified line on that. So on the question, maybe a bit more, I mean, for me, I think it's the end of the legislative period, which is going to be critical, not the next year, but where are we going to be in 2028? But maybe to the Commission, and I don't know how much you can say about this in public, if and how is there, or is there already some kind of strategic thinking when you may switch from being capacity building, enhancing, supporting to getting a little bit more tough? And it's, I know 3 years, maybe 2 years ahead, but eventually this point will have to come. And it's always a question, of course, the specific circumstances, but we have seen a credibility issue. And if it's up to the member states to keep pointing fingers at each other to say, you first have to do this, and only then we are going to do that, I think we are still also structurally in a problem. And I don't know how the Commission is going to get out of this corner where you are not picking these fights anymore and leave it for the member states to do this.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take 3 before I invite then here the gentleman and then the lady in the front row. The microphone is coming.
Thank you. Vitna Wotny from the Martin Center. The word solidarity was mentioned. I think without solidarity in its broad definition, there would never be a new pact legislation. Without a more precisely defined solidarity, the new pact will not be implemented. So I just want to ask the panelists, how do you see this proceeding from now on? The European Commission is supposed to submit a report on countries under pressure. How is it going? Will we see that report soon? Is there a chance for an agreement, actually? Or are we going to stay, without that report ever be published? Thank you.
Thank you. And then in the front row.
Thank you very much. My name is Sirwa. I am Director-General of the Joint Crisis Coordination Center, Kurdistan region of Iraq. So thank you. I think you are important actors in the strategic decision making, especially for KRI. We are really suffering from some kind of decision and some kind of, I don't know how to engage reality to the decisions and thinking. For us, I would like first to thank ICMPD for some of the points that you mentioned. They really changed the steps of capacity building and this to critical solution. The step of bringing the whole of government approach and thinking about ways of legal migration instead of illegal and awareing community. MRCs was one of the best choices that done in our area, and we really thank you. But we really need your support. For example, we established the center, but we need from EU to give us one package of legal opportunities in your country, because this is not a solution when we say that the doors closed totally. We know very well that we will create opportunities for smugglers, for human trafficking people, because the situation in the world is boiling. In my country, still there is, in Kurdistan region, still we have 33 camps. We have 1 million IDPs and refugees. And you see the situation of Syria and other IDPs, Sinjar. But unfortunately, EU today decided to deport the Yazidis, for example, as a part of Kurdish community. So where they will return? Of course, they will return to the camp. So they will end the idea, of course, it will not be ended. So we really need you think about the decision to be with real solutions. For this, what we need from you, besides the legal opportunities, of course, we need good packages of support that can reintegrate safely. For example, establishing national referral mechanism is always a very, very good step, but we cannot reintegrate these people without support from EU. For example, Germany now is giving good opportunities, but other returnees are coming back from other countries. They also need packages of support. So this is very important that EU come and see the reality in the areas itself. We cannot decide on tables. We should really see the reality, the challenges, the problems, and how we can solve. And again, I really thank ICMPD because MRC really can change the views and vision of the government. We really, like how to say, we developed very well in only 1 year, and we have huge plans, but we really need you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to bringing that sort of a little bit, you said reality on the ground. I would call it even reality check, as it was said before. I mean, the whole pact discussion is about EU internal, but also actually the external projection, and anything in relation to return, reintegration has, of course, huge impact in this situation. And well, thank you for the kind words for the work of ICMPD, and especially underlining sort of our work when we speak the MRCs, the Migrant Resource Centers, which we are operating in a number of countries. And it's indeed, I think we share your view that it is actually a very good experience. You were a little bit put on the spot as the European Commission, as the guardian.
And many others want to intervene, so I will try to be short. We will definitely propose the package of the solidarity pool and the decision on migratory pressure in the next days. But it's complex, so it's better to do it with some time. And there I come back to the question on the guardian of the treaty. I don't think in 2025 we can do policy making in the same way we did it when I joined the European Commission, which is over 30 years ago. It's a very different political environment, and in migration, the trust building is absolutely essential. And of course we will play our role, but we also see that countries are not actually even implementing court judgments on migration in the European Union. So it is something, I think, where you need to have the channel of communication open, the trust-building exercise between member states continuing, and then I think seeing all the will to make it happen, we also have to give that time. And on reintegration, I very much agree with you. It's very important to give good reintegration packages for people who want to go back. There are different setups, I agree, and there can be competition, and some can be more generous than others. We are trying to, from the EU level, to have a more aligned approach to this, but this is obviously also a lot of competence of the member states, where they can also then do what they think is right. So there is a network on how to do returns, voluntary and forced returns, and this does talk quite a lot about the right reintegration package, but you will see differences in countries and regions. But I'll take it back what you say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who want to comment?
The question was, one of the questions was, will we reach a deal on solidarity? And Beate said that the Commission will produce a proposal. I was talking with Manos earlier over coffee about this. We will reach an agreement on this. We will. We have to. The European Union is an agreement-reaching machine. That's what it does. And this is a vital part of the pact. And yes, we all have our own particular difficulties in approaching this, but I think it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I went to Brussels to meet Michael Schotter from Beate's team and talking about this. But I had two questions. Yes, one was about the Irish concerns, but the more important question, and the first question I asked him, was how do we as a union land this? How do we address the issue of solidarity? And I think most member states, while conscious of their own concerns, realise that we do have a shared mission here, and we will find agreement on it. I'm confident we will.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I also raised my hand, but you looked at the other side. No, I'm just kidding. So we all agree that we are
that's
going
because it was my turn to steal your speech.
Yes, perfect, perfect. And now I find myself in a difficult position, not having any fancy things to say, but no, I will agree, which is already not fancy. The thing is that we will finally reach a level of a compromise to have a common approach on all that is needed within the pact. Don't get me wrong, we need everything that is there involving the implementation of a new whole of Europe approach in migration. We reached the level of the whole of governance. That was the objective at the beginning, that it's not only about the migration ministries of each country, but it's the whole of country, the whole of government approach. Now we are reaching to a point of a whole of Europe approach towards migration. And that should be the objective for the years to come, that we will have a common approach. It will be painful, because as you started, we have a different geographical position. So we suffer from different challenges. And this creates difficulties in negotiations. But still, at the end, we will have to find a common solution. And the pact took us 10 years. Once again, I will say, hopefully we will be faster this time. Why? Because maybe in 10 years, the world has changed once again. And the agreement that we will make will be out of date, out of time. So now we are pushed with the time frame that we have already established, and we are all confident that we will make it. Now, we have to say something also about what the lady said, about the legal versus illegal pathways. We talk a lot about the illegal, irregular, call it as you want, migration, and we forget to put the legal pathways there. Why? Because we are so confident that they are working. I have a breakthrough there. It is not working. If it was working, people will not move irregularly. No. It is not working. My minister always says this example that it's easier to come to Europe illegally than to come legally. It's actually cheaper sometimes. That is why people choose to come that way to Europe. We know that most of the people that come here are financial, economic migrants. They are looking for a better life. Do we give them an option to come legally? Actually not. It's too hard because in the past we were caring a lot about unemployment within our countries. So we were really highly protective on how to give out visas and how to bring people here in Europe easily. We have the old system there as well. So it makes it really difficult for people to come. And then we blame them why they choose to come illegally. So we have to put legal migration debate concerning visas and all these things in our everyday debates. This is a very nice way to fight, don't get me wrong, fight against irregular pathways. If we talk about the legal ones, once again, from the beginning, from scratch. Yes?
Thank you. Before I open second round for questions, prepare yourself. Pavla.
Yeah. I have to react with a very unpopular opinion, but I believe the legal migration being the solution to illegal migration is a myth. Sorry, Manos. No, but the demand is too high, and the possibilities and options we have are not that high. We will never be able to sustain all the demand from all of the world for people who would wish to get a better economic future, which I completely understand. We would never be able to do that. So we are saying we will do that, but it will not create what we wish. On contrary, what we might create is actually with a high legal migration demand, it might end up that we will end up with more illegal migration, because we know that illegal migration is partly, and maybe to some quite high extent, driven by communities. That's the reality. We see it when we see where the people go in Europe. Why do we have secondary migration? That's partly because of communities. I can tell you that we have a very open legal migration policy in the Czech Republic. It's actually really a very open one. And before the Ukrainian, the Temporary Protection Directive, we had a large Ukrainian diaspora. It was very easy to get legal at the Czech Republic, and we still had illegal migration from Ukraine. So, yeah. Just saying.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's interesting. Very interesting. I saw already some. There's a hand over here.
Thank you so much. My name is Tatiana Chumajd. represent the General Inspectorate for Migration, Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Moldova. And first of all, congratulations for the great combination of the panelists and the possibility to address the questions. For the Republic of Moldova as a candidate country, it's interesting because we received the recommendation from the European Commission in the screening process under the Chapter 24 to see how the member states will deal with the implementation of the new pact and the best examples to be then replicated in the Republic of Moldova. But for the preparation, we have now several projects in the implementation which help us. For example, we have the twinning project where is Sweden, Greece and Romania on board. And Greece, although we heard about a lot of challenges presented today, they are very good in presenting how we should implement the aspects relating to the person's special needs, comparing to the present acquis on asylum, and the comparison with the new pact on migration and asylum. And the Czech Republic is present in another project under Mobility Partnership Facility, helping us on the local governance. So it's great that the member states, although very overwhelmed and occupied with the implementation of the new pact, still they are open to share their best experience and knowledge regarding the implementation of the new pact. In the context of the migration conference and the aspects relating to the partnership, I would like to ask, because you are mentioning the challenges the government are facing until June 2026, but what about the partnership if the member states are considering this until June 2026, or this is something that will be discussed after that, specifically when we talk about the involvement of the civil society, of the local authorities, because this is quite important when we see, for example, the screening regulation, which is quite complex when dealing with persons' special needs or unaccompanied minors. So this is something to ask, to receive some recommendation, maybe if there are some requirements on the, from the DG to know for the Republic of Moldova how we should prepare for the future implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Some more questions? The gentleman.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mujib Mufaddal. I am the ambassador of Sudan here. My question is regarding the host countries or the countries of origin. What is there in the pact for countries of origin apart from reintegration? The other question is that is there any possibility to speak about a new type of solidarity between the North and the South in order to support the countries of origin to develop not only solidarity within Europe, but solidarity with the countries in order for our people, for our youth, not to think for migration, whether legally or illegally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also have, I think it's tomorrow, we have a dedicated session about partnerships, and I think we will go there in more depth, actually, exactly to that point. Also what you call solidarity, because North and South. Anyone else? Last chance before I give the word to the one last question there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very interesting panel debate. I'm Claudia Masi from the European People's Party in Brussels. I'm political advisor on migration. And my question would be, does the Migration Pact, or will it solve after June 2026, cases, for example, of course we have many immigrants who integrate in our societies, but unfortunately we also have immigrants who commit crimes and who use our Schengen system to abscond to other member states and who then move to other EU member states to commit again crimes. Will this be solved by the Migration Pact? And I also agree with the colleague from Czechia that legal migration pathways will not solve the problem of irregular migration, because most of the immigrants come legally to the EU, also by planes, for example, from Turkey, but they stay on irregularly, illegally. Some of them, again, use the Schengen system to abscond, to disappear. So, yeah, this is my personal opinion on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we will include the answers in the last round, where you can comment and share your last thoughts, but also please answer the questions. We'll do Andrew, Manos, Pavla, and Beate. And then, over to you, Andrew.
Well, I suppose just final comments. I'm sitting in between Paola and Manos, and I think the answer is somewhere in between them. Legal migration isn't the answer to everything. On its own, it won't solve the problem, but it is a very important part of the overall package. I think controlling illegal migration is important. Implementing the pact so that we have a very efficient system for managing asylum claims is really important. And I think how we'll judge that in the success of that in the years to come is that if we're sitting here talking about the challenges of broadening labour migration pathways, that we've been so successful in controlling the illegal pathways, because we are ultimately, we all have demographic gaps growing in the European Union. We're all in competition to bring in the skilled migrants that we need. So hopefully we will have done everything that we can do together to address the challenges of illegal migration and built stronger systems through the pact, through the returns regulation, but also through the partnerships. I think are really critical that we have partnerships. As Beate has said, this is a global problem. It's not a European problem, and it needs that partnership with countries on the legal and the illegal to offer viable solutions for all.
Thank you. And I think I was meant to ask all of you where we are, what you would consider as a success in a year's time. If I invited you, for the next Vienna Migration Conference, we sit here again to say what would you say that's a bit of a success to?
Yeah, you could get very focused on the mechanics of the pact. Are we delivering decisions within the timelines and all of that? That's one measure of success. I think if there is, for me, the overall measure of success will be greater confidence in member states that we're managing all migration issues to the best of our ability, that we have confidence in the solutions we're developing together, that we see that the language is less about crisis and more about normal management, that we're comfortable, that we're taking the right steps, that we're on the right path, rather than minute measures of key performance indicators. I think generally, and for me personally, I think it would be having to provide fewer briefing notes to the Prime Minister's office because migration is yet again at the European Council for discussion. It would be great if it was off the agenda, if it was less of an issue. Okay. That for me would be success.
Thank you. Manos.
Listen, it will be a really hard year to come. So if we were sitting a year after in the same position, we will be glad if we reach that level of decreasing the info that we need to share with one another, which means that negotiations are over and we have reached the point that we all have agreed that we have a successful initial implementation of the whole pact. We will describe the problems that have come up, we will describe the best practices and what we need already to change. That will be the thing that we will hope to have. What we will not hope to have is that we will still be arguing on what is the right pathway. I mean, we do not have to project what we believe as the best solution to everyone. We have agreed on something, let's implement it to the level that we can, and let's continue debating on how we can implement it better. I think that should be the best position that we should be a year after. We will definitely be in the same position suffering from decreased flows. We already have decreased flows before the pact. So hopefully we will have even more decreased flows with the pact implementation, because in a way it is a deterrence measure of a quick response, returns, things like that. Not free movement, all these things that we know, doubling initiated immediately, people are going to be returned to the initial entry spot. All these things might have as a target to have further decrease of the flows. But I don't think that there is no one in the room that believes that we will have no flows and we will have no problems. No, we will still have problems to face. But we all hope that in a year from now, we will be better off. I think that should be our objective for next year.
Fully agree. Want to briefly answer to the question. So I think for a candidate country, you should now focus on the new laws coming into place. So because you will not have to apply the ones that will be now replaced. So that's important. Comprehensive partnerships are key to work globally together. So we have been really investing in making partnerships with third countries beyond just transactional migration management, but to really invest also in the economies, in the education, in the capacity of the country. And I think with Global Gateway and with our comprehensive and strategic partnerships, we have found a good way to help economies worldwide to develop and to improve. And I think when it comes to Schengen, we have really worked 16 years to introduce new IT systems at the Schengen border. They have just come with the entry-exit system for people that arrive visa-free, with a visa and visa-free. They have just come into operation and will give us then, over time, a good view who is in the European Union, who is not, and who is overstaying, who is not. But obviously, these people come with their passports, so there's a big difference to people to arrive with no documents. Where are we in 1 year's time? So first, I hope we have agreed a modern, effective return regulation for the European Union. Then I really hope that we are also having a first positive experience with the first migration management cycle that we're putting in place now. And ultimately, you know, since I see one of the key founders and mothers of the pact, my former boss, Eva Johansson, she used to say and will continue to say, migration is just something normal. And it's something that should become a routine. And there, I hope we're moving closer to in a year's time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Pavla.
Yeah, I would at the end say that I truly believe after 20 years in this business that migration cannot be solved with a magic touch. There is nothing like that. It's actually hard work, and it's a lot of small steps you need to do in every direction, in every area, and it's a very broad area we are speaking about. I believe that the pact brings a lot of these steps, brings a lot of steps that will close some of the loopholes, but new will emerge for sure. That's why I'm confident we will never stop writing the notes for the ministers. It's said that for every meeting we have, the organized crime has 2 more to discuss how to deal with the issues. So I believe that in a 1 year time, we will say, oh, these loopholes are closed, good, super. There are some more, and we need to work on them. But at least I believe some of them will be closed. And it gives us a perfect starting point, because as I agree with Manos, that's the achievement of the pact. We now know the goal. We have the same goal in the European Union, and that's very important. And that makes it good base for having more discussions that will come.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of you really for your very clear words. I mean, you have all your realities back home. It's sensitive. We have in countries, we have elections, we have things are moving, we have new challenges. So many, many thanks, and please join me in a warm round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we can leave the stage. All those in the room, please don't leave. Stay on. We will have a very interesting session now, actually focusing probably one of the most challenging things which have happened in Europe, close to Europe, and that we will want to speak about actually if the future scenarios for displaced Ukrainians. Please stay, don't move too much. The new panelists will be on stage in a second.